With the first pick, with the second pick, with the third pick, with the fourth pick,
crashing the boards.
select.
Hello and welcome to episode number 11 of Crashing the Boards. I'm Evan Skilliter, joined by Jordan Foote. Jordan, it's Saturday morning, at least where I'm at in Northwest Ohio. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. I've filled my belly with some Eggs Benedict, and I'm ready to record. How are you doing?
Good, man. I actually haven't filled my belly with anything yet. And in Kansas City, it's raining. So I woke up in the middle of the night. Like one of those times you just wake up and then you flip over and you go back to sleep. Well, I woke up and like all my lights were off. Like I have LED lights in my room. My TV's usually on playing something. Like I'll throw on an old NBA game or something before bed. Everything was off. And I was like, huh, that's weird. So I walked around the house, like tried to turn on lights, looked outside, and I could see like a tree branch in the street. So I'm like, okay, it stormed. It was that type of storm. So the power lines must have got knocked out or something, but went back to bed, woke up, everything was back on. So it was no big deal. And I'm glad to be here. I was worried that it would take forever to get that handled because you know how that stuff goes with the city, then delay crashing the boards, but they can only hold us down for so long.
That's right. Well, who knows when this will be published, man? It's been so difficult to find time lately with everything going on. But hey, we're cruising through these prospects. I think on most draft boards we're getting close to all consensus lottery picks reviewed and a lot of other first round guys.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be talking about two more potential first round picks, Duke's Jalen Johnson and UConn's James Bouknight. And if you missed our last couple episodes, be sure to check those out on YouTube. We just released one recently with Kai Jones and Zaire Williams, two of my favorite prospects that don't get talked about enough, in my opinion, and I think Jordan's as well.
Yeah.
But let's get right to it today. Let's start with Jalen Johnson. Jalen's a 6'9", 215-pound small forward. Played 13 games, 21.4 minutes per game for Duke. He averaged 11.23 points per game, 6.08 rebounds, 2.2 assists to 2.5 turnovers, shot 52% from the field on 8.3 attempts, 44% from three on 1.38 attempts, 63% from the free throw line on 2.9 attempts, and actually averaged 1.2 blocks and 1.2 steals per game. So Jordan, why don't you kick it off? What do you like about Jalen Johnson?
Yeah, man. First and foremost, I just like him in the open court. He's fun to watch. A solid rebounder, can grab and go. Really solid ball handler. At Duke, he brought the ball up the court more than I thought he was going to. So that was nice to see. He's a plus athlete and a highly skilled guy for his size. Role man potential in the half court, I think. Like we both agree that he's more of a small forward, but he can also step into that power forward type role in a half court offense sometimes due to his size. I think he's just a smart player for the most part. Smart defender, rotates well. He lacks that strength to kind of hang down low, but not technique. Active near the rim and in passing lanes. Quality ball mover on offense. Like I don't think his assist numbers necessarily do his ability to pass justice. Keeps his head on a swivel, just makes good reads. So nothing spectacular, but the more you watch him, the more you're like, this is a pretty solid player.
Yeah, I like his versatility on offense a lot. I love his driving ability. He can get to the rim, he can score, and he's a really good passer. You said it, and we say it about a lot of guys, but the assist numbers are nice, but that's not a pure indication of how often he set up his teammates at Duke. And Duke had a rough year, right? Like Duke guys didn't hit a lot of shots, and his numbers might have suffered because of it. But I think he's a great passer. He's got good speed. I wrote down good speed and finishing in transition, which, if you think about how that translates to the NBA, a floor that's going to be spaced a lot better than Duke could provide for him. So in the half court, his half court game definitely lacked a little bit, but when that space is there for him, I think he'll be able to take advantage of it and get to the rim, put some pressure on guys and find guys, right? He's got good basketball IQ. So I think that helps him in the passing category. He's got great feel for when to cut and where to cut. I think that's something that's not talked about enough with Jalen is his cutting ability and putting pressure on defenses off the ball. So really like him on offense. And then, yeah, defensively, he's got great length, right? He's 6'9". I don't know if I saw his wingspan. Do you have his wingspan?
I wrote down 7 foot, so I found
Okay.
that somewhere,
Okay.
which is pretty good. So he's a lengthy player.
Yeah, and I would have guessed somewhere around 7 feet too, just by looking at him. But as long as he's locked in, I think he can guard multiple positions from post players to guards, wings. Pretty strong in the post if he has to be. I think he could use some more strength. We'll get to that in a second. But great defender, great off ball as well. We already talked about his IQ on the basketball court, right? He's got length to play passing lanes. He's got the ability to get interceptions and to help on defense. And with that length, you think he'll probably be able to defend the rim, right? We said 1.2 blocks for what we're going to presume a small forward. So yeah, he's got a lot of things I like offensively.
Yeah, 100%. There's, like we said, nothing that is absolutely like jumping off the page or off the film at you, but you just look at every little thing and he checks like quite a few boxes for a prospect.
Absolutely. So you noticed that we said at the top 44% from 3, but when we talked about the positives, we didn't necessarily mention the shooting. And if you're just looking at numbers, that's going to confuse a lot of people. You have to understand, he only played 12 games. I think he shot 18 threes.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those were wide open looks. Defense would either sag back to take away the drive because we already talked about how good he is in the open floor. He didn't necessarily create his own space for the jumper. He shot poorly off the bounce. And, I don't know if he's necessarily a floor spacer right now, but what do you think about his jump shot?
Yeah, I'm the same thing. I wrote down the 3-point percentage. It's misleading. Not a great off the bounce shooter. Had that written down too. Really, he's a consistent shot away from being a valuable offensive piece. I think like a really valuable one. He has potential as like a spot up shooter. He just needs to reach that ceiling. And it's one of those things where you have to believe it when you see it because we haven't necessarily seen a ton of it. Like you said, like 18 attempts, that's not a ton. What I think is pick and roll wise and then pick and pop. I think his finishing is a little bit soft at times. He kind of avoids contact. I think we'll talk about him adding strength. That will help. The pick and pop game, again, he has potential. It's just risky right now for teams to rely on that. So I don't know. He's a guy that even we talked before we came on, like we weren't quite 100% certain in putting him at small forward. Like we had a pretty good idea. Like that sounds good. But I feel like he's a guy that even his first NBA team will kind of experiment with his role a little bit in the half court. Obviously in the full court, he is a threat to do a lot of stuff, but he just has to kind of mature, I think. And that's my second question mark. Can he mature? He makes a lot of risky passes. Like we saw those 2.5 turnovers a game. I think that's more of a confidence thing. Like he knows that he can make those passes, which that's fine. He'll just have to dial it back considering he won't be a primary ball handler in the NBA, maybe not even a secondary one. He could benefit from getting stronger without losing any of that quickness and athleticism. It'll help him, I think, on the interior on both sides of the ball. He'll be able to get finishing at the rim better. He'll be able to hold his own on defense better. So just some growing up to do literally, and then kind of proving that he can do some of the stuff that he flashed at Duke.
Yeah, he said kind of the same stuff. He shies away from contact at the rim, doesn't finish well through contact. And like you said, strength is definitely going to help in that category. As in terms of his passing, like I really do see some really good flashes of passing. I really think he'll be a good passer, but you're right. His turnover number is a little too high. He tries a lot of tough passes, a lot of passes he probably shouldn't be making, which look, that also points to confidence, and you want confidence in a guy. You want a guy to think he can do it all, but you also want to be able to rein that in a little bit. And, perhaps with reps, again, we talked about this last episode. This is a weird year for everybody. He only played 12 games. Who knows how much he practiced with the team, how much real work they got in. So, a lot of these guys, they still need some time to develop. So, that's something that I think can get worked out. He's got great passing chops, and I do think with some training and with some reps, he'll get better in that category. Which you think about the shot. Okay, so if he can hit that shot consistently from outside, he can limit the turnovers, continue to be a good passer. This is going to be a really good player.
Yep.
And again, the ceiling right now is high. The floor might be a little bit low depending on how much you value a few of the characteristics that he does well. But man, I think he can be a really good player. Can he stay locked in defensively? Look, I'm almost getting tired of saying that about guys. Like, if they can lock in, they'll be a good defender, because it seems like that's the case with 90% of prospects, right? Like, all these guys have the tools to be defenders. We talked about his defense in the positives, right? So look, it's up to an NBA front office how much stake they put in their defense. If they think they can stay locked in defensively, they even care that they can stay locked in defensively. If a guy can just pick and choose his spots. But the NBA is a funny game. And, in the playoffs, defense has been crazy good. It's been fun to watch. But throughout a regular season, I think guys pick and choose their spots anyway. So it's up to the front office. But those are my main question marks. And then there's a lot written about his character. This is a show where we want to talk about prospects honestly. So, if you're not familiar with Jalen Johnson, he left IMG Academy his senior year after just a few games, went back to his old high school. He only played 12 games for Duke before, I don't want to say quitting. Like he Coach K came out and said some nice things about him after he left, but essentially didn't play the whole season at Duke, left to get ready for the draft. Maybe there was someone wrote about a foot injury that maybe he was trying to, he was just trying to make sure his stock in the draft didn't go down because of injury. Who knows what it is? It's not really, I don't feel it's my place to make judgment on his character, but it's worth pointing out that there are some question marks with the character. And, this is, there you go. There you have it. Just so you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say the same thing. Like, we can't draw any conclusions from that. We shouldn't draw any conclusions from that, but it's worth bringing up. I'm sure NBA front offices will have a lot more to ask about that than we will. They will have that opportunity. I'm sure if we sat down with Jalen, he'd explain it to a T, but it's worth bringing up, especially since it's like a two-time thing, once in high school, once in college. It could have been an injury that he literally, I don't blame him. I would consider doing something similar if he didn't want people to know he was injured and just wanted to gracefully bow out. Coach K, obviously, like you said, had a lot of good things to say about him. So nothing that is concrete, but still worth talking about.
Absolutely. Anything else as far as question marks go, as far as positives go? I mean, I think we covered them pretty well.
Yeah, I think so. There's not a lot that jumps out on either side, which is a good thing. There's not like a glaring, oh my gosh, this is horrible type thing, or this really, really, really needs to be improved. Like, even with the shooting, in the small sample size, he did well. We just need to see a bigger sample size and more consistency at the NBA level. And I think he can do that eventually.
So what's your summary?
My summary, I put a small forward-ish type who is a reliable shot and a few pounds away from being a great modern option at the NBA level.
Good stuff. I put a sizable, versatile threat that can make an immediate impact offensively by pressuring defenses with his driving and passing ability, and defensively with his length, quickness, and ability to guard multiple positions. His ceiling hinges on his ability to hit jumpers consistently, limit turnovers, and stay locked in on both ends of the court.
Now, that was good stuff. And I wish I could write that much, but I do my notes by pen and paper. So I just kind of write one sentence, and I'm like, if I type them up, I could do that whole like paragraph thing. But even if I did, dude, those, like, your summaries are fire.
Oh man, thanks for saying
They're really
that.
good. They're
And
really good.
If you've been watching this show since the beginning, you know that I used to not write down my summaries at all. But I've come to, I had some people that were like, hey, the summaries are super helpful. And I think when we get to the actual draft, it'd be nice to have these summaries kind of clipped out and posted out there. So thanks for saying that. Let's move on. James Bouknight. Do you say Bouknight or Bucknight? I've heard it both ways.
I say Booknight, but Booknight almost sounds right. So it's like that Gonzaga type thing, which
That's
someone
right.
commented and said that it's Gonzaga. So
Yeah, there was a super
I don't
technical
know.
explanation too. I'll have to go back and look at it, but yeah, it's pretty funny. We certainly appreciate the comments. But so James Bouknight, we'll go with that. He's a sophomore, played 2 years at UConn. He's 6'4" with a 6'8" wingspan. He's a shooting guard. Played 27 minutes per game, averaged 18.7 points, 5.6 rebounds, 1.8 assists to 2.8 turnovers. Shot 44% from the field on 14.6 attempts, 29% from three on 5 attempts, 77% from the free throw line on 5.4 attempts, and also turned in 1.13 steals per game. Jordan, James Bouknight.
I'm just gonna go in. Like I like a lot of what James Booknight brings to the table. I think as an athlete, he's fantastic. The first step is really good. He explodes well on his drives. He's very shifty in the half court, can navigate well. Adept at attacking the rim. He just has that mindset. Quick feet on defense. I think he really has a high ceiling there, and we'll talk about that more later probably. Ball handling and self creation. Like he's a guy that can fill that Jordan Clarkson like role, like just come off the bench and go get buckets, or even if you start, go take some shots and create for yourself. He can do that. He has the
Man,
tight handle.
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
I gotta cut you off because I love that comp, Jordan Clarkson. I hadn't even put
Yeah.
that together. That's a really good
Like
spot.
watching him, I thought, and I don't know what Clarkson's measurements are or anything. And like I call it the Jordan Clarkson experience when he
Yeah,
comes off the bench and plays. It's kind of like the James Bouknight experience, and that's not a bad thing. Like he has the handle. He's great at creating space for his shots. He generates his own looks at will. He's fine with taking any tough shot you need him to. Breaks down the defense. He's despite like the shot selection sometimes in the percentages, people bring that up. He's savvy. He's creative. Others get open off of him, I think, more often than not, and just not being that 3-point threat or the mid-range threat, but also being able to drive definitely commands a ton of attention on offense.
yeah, for sure. I've got some important question marks, but as far as positives go, I agree with you. My notes start with great athlete, foot speed in the open court's outstanding. He's shifty, great handles, stop start ability is tremendous. Sometimes that hesitation is it's so subtle, but it's so effective.
Mhm.
Really impressive dribbles, handles, whatever. Dribbles sounds cool. We'll stick with that. I like that he can get to the bucket. I like that he can finish, man. He can drive left or right, finish with the left or right. He's a slithery finisher. He needs to avoid contact right now because he's a little bit slight, a little bit slender, but at the same time, so we talk a lot about the guys that avoid contact at the rim and they take these off balance, uncoordinated looking shots. Like Bouknight seems like he's able to avoid contact but still remain under control, which I really
Yeah.
like at the rim. And then I think he's a capable defender. Honestly, I think he's quick. He can defend guards, maybe some wings. He's got a +4 wingspan, right? He's at 6'8", so that quickness and length helps in the passing lanes. And then he's a plus rebounder, and you don't necessarily put a lot of stock or stake in rebounding from the shooting guard position, but it's a nice bonus, right? He averaged, 5.6 rebounds a game or something like that.
Yeah.
So, anytime you can get a guy that can pull down some boards, that's a big deal. So good offensive player, good defensive player, but some key question marks, like I said. Do you have any more pluses before that?
No, I'm good to go. Let's do some question marks, man.
Sure. So his jump shot is interesting. Okay. He can create for himself. He can get space, get to his spots, but he didn't hit consistently. And so we talked about it last week too, or last episode. It's been a really weird year for guys. Okay. So, not a ton of games, not a ton of practice, like weird structure to practices. From year one, so remember he's a sophomore. From his first year to his second year, the percentages dropped by 2% on regular field goals, or all field goal attempts, 5% on threes and 5% on free throws. So what can you attribute that to? A sophomore slump, to maybe having more attention from the opposing team's defense? I'm not sure, but I don't know how much emphasis I want to put on the shooting ability, because I still think he's a good enough athlete to get that figured out, to get it tweaked. Again, it's a question mark. It's not a negative. It's not a, we're not saying he can't do it. He just needs some consistency. And I think he can probably get back to at least 34, 33, maybe 35%, which would certainly be adequate for a guy that can put pressure on defenses with his speed.
Yeah, 100%. And that was my first question mark. I put, what's his offensive ceiling and can he reach it? Like, the 3-point shot's inconsistent. And there have been a lot of guys that we've talked about, Evan, that they can get to their spots and they can create space, but they just can't finish those shots and convert them. And he's one of those guys. And that's not a bad thing, because it's a lot harder to teach a guy to do some of the stuff that James Bouknight can do, rather than just knock down your shots or tweak your jumper a little bit. And some guys just don't have the athleticism or the wingspan at the guard position, stuff that he has. So he'll need to keep working on it for sure. He'll need to be more deliberate, I think, with his dribbling and shot selection. He kind of not completely kills possessions at times, but he gets a little fancy and spends a little more time than he should, I think. The passing is a pretty decent sized question mark for me. Can he become a better one? High usage, low teammate involvement kind of on offense. Hitting them after dribble penetration kind of makes sense, because he will command a lot of attention from the defense, like we've been talking about. So people bring up maybe he's a combo guard, maybe he's a shooting guard. I think we both agree he's more of a shooting guard right now, with that potential to possibly become a combo guard, because he has the ball in his hands so much. He could become a better passer. But that's my first set of question marks on offense, is can he kind of mature his offensive game a little bit?
Yeah, I'm with you too. I had those same notes for passing. And, right now, without consistency from the outside and without the ability to pass consistently, NBA defenses, they're going to be able to defend a step back, take away that driving ability. And I think that'll hinder his offensive production for right now. So again, these are question marks. If these two things can get worked out, or even honestly, even one of the two things, jump shot or passing, can get worked out, he'll be an offensive threat. And I really do think that those will get ironed out and won't be as big of an issue as they seem right now on paper and on the tape. So then my last question mark here, it's another locked in thing. I said, I'm kind of getting tired of saying it. 90% of the guys we watch are, they're capable defenders. They have length, they have athleticism, etc. How much do front offices care? I don't know, but he is a guy that should, sometimes isn't locked in defensively and takes breaks on the defensive end, but most guys are like that.
Yeah, and that's my literal same thing. Like, inconsistent effort at times, some concentration lapses, closes out too hard sometimes. If he can find the happy medium between being like modest and reserved on defense versus super aggressive, he's going to be good. Like, he has the athleticism, he has the length, he has the foot speed. Just a guy that I think at that 2-guard spot can really do some damage. And he's only 190 pounds or whatever he is. I think he can add a little bit more to his frame. He can be a really solid plus defender, I think, at the NBA level. So I like it. I think that both of these things on offense and defense, outside of the passing, like the shot and the just being locked in, are relatively easy fixes. And they can raise his ceiling from being maybe a spark plug off the bench to a guy that can slot into your starting lineup and be a really valuable piece.
Yeah, for sure. I will, anything else?
Nope, that's it
All
for
right.
me.
I'll start with my summary this time. Got him as a shooting guard with incredible athleticism that can get to the rim and finish and contribute on or off the ball defensively right away. If he can round out his offensive game by developing a consistent jump shot and becoming a better passer, Bucknight could be an elite second or even primary offensive weapon for spurts. However, his current skill set alone is worthy of a first-round pick.
Evan, I'm just gonna leave it at your summary. I put basically the same thing except in far fewer words, and left out a bunch of cool stuff. I think he's a lottery pick. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's a stretch. I think he's gonna go in the lottery. I think he's worth that spot. Even if he does end up being like a Jordan Clarkson, where he averages 15 to 18 points per game off the bench, or even 12 to 15, can do a lot of stuff. I don't want to put him in that box quite yet because on one hand, he has so much to work on still, but on the other hand, if he fixes that, he can be a reliable starting shooting guard. And like, even if he improves the passing, the ceiling is really high with him. And he's such a good athlete that I think he has the advantage that a lot of prospects don't have. So I'm a big fan of James Bouknight.
Good deal. And you brought up a good point. You're not going to put him in a box, and you think he's a lottery pick. And we got a comment this week about ranking players. Why aren't we ranking players? Why, and that's not what the show is. I responded to the comment, but there's 100 million sites you can go to find rankings on different players. All we're trying to do here is give you an idea of who the player is. Sure, sometimes we'll say, oh, probably a lottery pick, should be a first rounder, etc. But it's not really our focus right now to actually rank these players and to tell you who's going to draft them. Maybe we'll get to that point before the draft. We'll have to see. But all we're trying to do right now is give you an idea of what this player is going to bring to an organization, whether it be right now or in the future or both.
Yeah. And honestly, right now, I don't even think I could rank the players. Like, if you sat me down and said, of all the players we've scouted so far, rank them, I'd be like, well, it depends on the team. It depends on what they need. It depends on the development of this player. Like, am I going based off ceiling potential? Am I going off of what they can offer right now? Like, what role are they going to play? There's just so much that goes into that you can't really do it in a vacuum, I don't think. And it makes our jobs easier and less argumentative, I guess, and less negative, because comparison's the thief of joy. It really is. Like, you compare this player, rank them above the other, then people get mad and say, well, you're leaving this guy out, or how can you do this? Like, we're not at that point yet. And I've kicked around the idea of doing like a joint mock draft on Twitter, or releasing like my own personal like tier rankings or something like that. Cause I'm just bad at being that decisive, but I think if I had to rank like number by number, I just couldn't do it.
Well, and that's the thing. You can't, you would almost have to have at least two lists, right? One would be rank the players based on how good they are right now. And one would be rank the players based on their ceiling, because some guys are getting drafted because they have a really high upside, but they're a raw talent. You think Jonathan Kuminga, you think Keon Johnson, guys like that. Or you're drafting a guy because what his impact's going to be right now and forever, like a guy like Cade Cunningham or Corey Kispert, guys that you've got a pretty good sense of who they are. So, sure, let's make a list, but you got to make at least two, and you could probably make extra categories in each two too. So again, we're just happy to be reviewing these guys. We hope that you're getting some valuable information out of it. And you could just mute the entire show and watch the clips and develop your own opinion and rank them yourself, right? There's at least, I think I counted an average of like 65 to 100 clips on each player throughout each show. So,
and I'm going to do a live lookup while we are on the show here. We have been getting some great support lately from subscribers. We're at 55 subs, Evan, which is absolutely insane. And I like the new graphics you've been implementing into the editing. Like, I think the show keeps getting better, man. 55, when we started, I remember we were like, man, if we can get to like 20 by the draft, this is going to be great. And then we hit 20, then we hit 25, 30. Then in the last week, we've got like 15 new subs. It's been crazy. So momentum is great. And shout out to everyone who tunes in every week.
Absolutely, man. It's been awesome. You can check out our past episodes on YouTube. You can find us both on Twitter, on Instagram. You can see our information there at the bottom of the screen. And until next time, stay right, stay real. God bless.
With the third pick. With the fourth pick.
Crashing the boards.
Select